The following is a presentation of Muddy River News.
Instant Replay is your local sports bar. With 18 big screen TVs, we have all the sports packages from college games to pro games. We offer daily drink specials, and come check out the Bullpen, our newly renovated beer garden. Instant Replay, 2739 Chestnut in Quincy.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Daily Muddy. I'm Ashley Conrad, and here with me is Megan Duncan, and we are in beautiful downtown Hannibal, where her new office is located.
Yay, I love it so much.
Oh, it's so cool. It's a beautiful day. Of course, this is at Pool Advertising, right? Sally Pool Advertising Agency. Yep. Her office is upstairs. Can't wait to see it. I know I've seen some things on social media about how happy you are to be here.
So happy. I'm so excited. Soon you'll be able to see from the road that we're here. We're getting signs put up and everything like that. So
it'll be totally official.
Yeah,
all right. Well,
official.
Until then, let's go in and check it out, and we can talk about how happy you are to be here.
All right, sounds good.
The Liquor Booth is your home for a huge selection of beer, wine, and spirits. The Liquor Booth has 2 locations in Quincy, 3520 Broadway and 1500 North 12th Street. The Liquor Booth, where it's always happy hour.
Okay, and here we are inside Meg's new digs in downtown Hannibal. This is just the cutest little space.
I know.
We did knock on the wrong door when we came in, and we hear Meg on the other side. She was like,
"Oh,
yeah." So first of all, how do you like it?
I love it. I love it.
Good.
It is amazing.
So I saw on your Facebook you posted something about how you've always been. Of course, you've always been a writer at heart, and this office just kind of lets you. It just kind of pulls everything together for you.
It does. Yeah. So when I was a kid, and on up through, my parents had a shop down, just down the street, actually. It was my grandmother's, and then when I was in my early 20s, I lived there, right on the street. And then I worked at the Hannibal Courier-Post as an advertising rep, and I cannot sell anything.
I saw that. You were like, I was terrible at it.
I was so terrible. Yeah. And there's nobody who would argue that. There's nobody who would be like, no, that's not true. No.
Even to placate. They're like, nah, no.
It was real bad. Yeah. And so a lot of times before work, I'd sit over at Becky Thatcher's, and I would write, because that's what I really wanted to do.
Sure.
And so now, just being back on this street, well, and of course, my whole work career started at Mark Twain Dinette. So I met my husband there. So this street feels like home to me.
Yeah.
And so now I'm back, and I'm doing what I've wanted to do my whole life. So I could not be happier.
What a cool story.
Yeah,
I mean, that is, I got goosebumps.
Thank you.
Of course, I'm like, I get up all my feels pretty easily, but this is a really good story, and we love having you at Muddy River News, of course.
Thank you. I love being here.
I'm happy that you have a home. And speaking of home, so you actually live in New London.
Correct.
So having a place in Hannibal, especially downtown, probably allows you to keep a pulse on happenings, goings on.
Exactly, yes. Before I got an office, I was either coffee shop hopping, which is now retired, or I was staying at my house in New London.
Yeah.
And when things would come through, I'm like, okay, 25 minutes, jumping up, and plus when you're at home, things are just harder to focus on.
Well, you can't ignore the mess in the corner,
Exactly.
which is what I struggle with that all the time.
Exactly.
But
well, I kind of can. I'm really.
I can too. Okay. Yeah, who am I kidding?
It's just the couch.
Yeah.
There you are.
Yeah.
I love you.
But being down here, having your office, again, probably keeps, it gives you just better access.
It does. I can walk most places. I can walk places, anything related to here. Last night I walked to City Council.
There you go. Which, speaking of City Council, there were some very interesting things that came out of that, right?
There were some developments yesterday, which I was another time glad to be down here. I was able to just, kind of really feel like I had a good focus on what was happening down here. Mayor Hark did resign yesterday.
Okay.
He resigned effective immediately, and he just emailed a letter to all the powers that be to let them know that he would no longer continue.
Okay.
So
were there any reasons behind that? One thing that I found interesting, of course, an immediate resignation of a mayor, of course, is kind of turns on some lights, and
it does.
So brings up some questions. But one thing I found interesting that I didn't know, and I'm sure many other Quincyans may not know, is the mayor of Hannibal is not a full-time salaried position.
Correct.
That's weird to me.
Yeah, so, and I'm not sure when that started. I can't remember, but it hasn't always been that way.
Okay.
We have a city manager, and the city manager, that's a full-time position who manages the city.
Okay.
Whereas the mayor takes on more of a role as, you know, he's signing documents that need signed, and he's going down to, you know, the riverboat to greet people, things like that.
So he's a celebrity facilitator.
He
maybe.
is, yeah. And, you know, the Hark family just has always been in that position here in Hannibal. I mean, his dad swore him in after he was the mayor for 15 years.
Okay.
And so it's been kind of a Hark legacy.
Do you know if it was salaried before the son was sworn in?
I believe that at one point,
It
yes.
was? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think that Roy Hark was his name, and I believe that he was full-time mayor.
Gotcha.
And so city manager, it seems like early 2000s is when they decided to switch to a city manager type role.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And then there's also the clerk, right?
And the city clerk, yes.
The city clerk is, what's her
Angel
name?
Zerbonia.
Okay, Zerbonia. And of course she's been in the news
A lot.
in Hannibal for a long time. I don't really know the specifics.
Yes.
But there were some questions about transparency and rules.
Yeah, so there was an email that was discovered, basically, and the email went out in July, but wasn't discovered by like media or let out to the public until months later, where it was Andy Dorian, who at the time was resigning from his position as Central Services Director,
Okay.
Parks and Rec, things like that. So he was leaving, and he sent out an email that basically accused Zerbonia of a hostile work environment.
Okay.
And went out like to all the heads of Hannibal City Hall.
Gotcha.
So after that became public, Zerbonia went on a paid administrative leave, and they hired an outside investigator.
Okay.
In other words, which I thought was a very good idea.
Sure.
She's worked there for 20 plus years. Before she was city clerk,
Okay.
she worked there, I think in the collector's office. And so she has a long history there, a lot of friends there, so it makes sense that they hired that outside
unbiased type.
exactly, to look into it. But it's been a long process. I mean, she's been on this leave since, I believe, November. So,
Wow. And it's paid.
It's paid. So that's brought up a lot of questions.
Sure.
So last night at City Council, James Lemon said they were going into closed session, and they were going to discuss like the final piece of that investigation.
Okay.
He said the Sunshine Law requires them within 72 hours, of course after they let Ms. Zerbonia know, to let us know if she's staying and what the results of that investigation are. So we're keeping our eye out for for that.
So has anybody corroborated, for lack of a better term, Andy's, his accusations, I guess? And I don't want to call them accusations because a hostile work environment can mean so many things to so many different people. But if he feels that way, I wonder if other people within...
Actually, there was and I didn't work here at the time, so I wasn't present at that meeting, but I certainly have heard about it and read up about it. There was a meeting where quite a few people came in to discuss that. Former employees discussed it and said that, that they felt it was a hostile work environment. Okay. For Andy Dorian, he has not come out with a lot since then.
Right.
He did come back. So he actually did come back to his position and said that, the hostile work environment was not why he left. It was just he wanted to try something new.
Sure.
Went to that job, and then, as a lot of people do, he discovered, hey, this is my home, I want to come back.
Sure. So do you think there's any tie between the mayor's resignation and the clerk issue?
A lot of talk is going on about it being either city clerk or possibly the impeachment.
The alderman.
With the council member Stephen Franke.
Yeah.
Because he was actually, all of his charges were dropped on Friday. So, however, I don't know if that's a connection with the timing. I know that Hark says that his business is expanding that he works for and then he has a lot of these, work obligations that are keeping him from really doing his job at city council. I mean, that's what he said. He verified that with me when I went and talked to him.
Okay.
And everything. So now I don't know, of course. I know that he has been absent from some of those meetings, and I think a lot of that's just because he's had a lot going on in life. Something else really that struck me, though, was something that that's been discussed, and honestly, his wife mentioned it on Facebook, and I had thought of it myself, is that, Hark recently, in yesterday's agenda, you can get on there and you can see what everyone makes. I mean, it's all public.
Sure.
Hark makes about $3,000 a year.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, now, did he leave because of that? Maybe his mental health said, hey, listen, you need to move on.
I guess it depends on what kind of BS you're dealing with.
I think
from people who are making substantially more than you.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. And not that the councilmen are making more, they're not. So,
no, but I'm saying other people.
But other people, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then what's being expected of the job, and for him to be a talking head. And I think that's hard in Hannibal because, the Hark family, they're known for being Hannibal connected. So I think people may expect more out of him than what the position requires.
Sure.
I talked to Councilman Colin Welch, and he was saying, he's just he's been the bearer of bad news.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have to step up in his absence and deliver our own bad news now. So I don't know if that timing, and as far as the Franke case goes, I can't say that I know. Jackson ruled on it that there was some failure to comply with the city, that they didn't produce the documents that the city had ordered them to produce, and there was some drama about it at last night's council meeting.
Right.
And everyone has their own story there. So my thought is, what is hard about these kind of things is when there's litigation involved. I will say I always feel bad.
Yeah.
Because only one side can really talk, and that's rough, and I do always want to get that other side of the story, but when there's litigation, it's just hard. Hands are tied, I can't say anything, there's pending litigation. Right. So that's rough on everybody. Being a journalist, and surely on the people involved, so.
Yeah, I can imagine it's hard to be able to be a Hannibalian, right? And to try to be fair and just in your journalistic endeavors.
Yes.
But, I think staying with the truth and just transparency.
Yeah.
And I know that's one thing that they were talking about in City Council. Perhaps more transparency would have helped avoid some of this. I don't know, but
I think so. I think that's a big part of it. I think the question for people is, why did the email go out in July and then everybody gets wind of it months later and then there's an investigation? I think that's a big question on everyone's minds, why did it take the public knowledge for them to, and why
pony up information.
And why didn't they tell the public right when the email was received and then go ahead and start that investigation? So I think there's all of those questions there, and it's just a matter of trying to get what we can and report as fairly and properly as we know how.
Completely. Yeah, for sure.
So,
and there's always, it seems like more drama these days within local governments, but I think it's because people are holding local government more accountable.
Yes.
And in my mind, and I don't know what the mayor's, total responsibilities are, but in an age where you are being held more accountable and there seems to be more drama, I don't think $3,000 would be enough for me to stay either, no matter how connected I am. That's just my personal opinion. I don't know.
Mine too.
I don't know anything about how things work here.
Yeah.
I also think as far as paid leave, I'm going to put in a request to Bob that I get 6 months paid.
And he's shaking his head back there.
I mean, that's quite a gig, and I'm not saying that she. I'm not saying she deserved one thing or another or doesn't deserve this. I don't know all that. I'm just saying regardless of what comes out of it, hopefully everybody gets a piece of justice and we can, you guys can move on and maintain the trust of your community.
And I think that's the biggest thread through it all, is that the community wants to trust the city government. I mean, there's so many coming in saying transparency, and that's that's what it's supposed to be.
Right.
You know, people want to know, and I mean,
They should.
Yeah, and they should be
know.
able to know.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's the main thing. And then if they know, then all of those conspiracy theories go away.
Yeah, right? Because if you don't know the true facts, you make up your own story.
Absolutely.
And those stories get wild.
Yeah.
And
then you put it on Facebook.
yeah. And then everybody starts to believe it, because who doesn't love a little bit of drama?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So as much as we want transparency, we also really thrive on the drama of things.
Yes.
So transparency definitely helps nip
Yeah.
some of that in the bud. Well,
Yeah.
I will say thank you for, I know that sometimes it's not easy on you to delve into some of this stuff.
Yeah,
But
it's hard because I care about
everybody.
so many people here and everybody here, so it's hard. I want to be fair, and that's my biggest thing. I just want to be fair.
Yeah. So I would say to help, kind of facilitate that, if you can be honest and transparent, then there you go.
Yeah.
Well, I say keep up the good work.
Thank you.
I'm super happy you got your own digs.
Thank you.
And I'm glad we have a place to go to the bathroom when we're down here for any event.
Right?
Which is awesome.
Yes, you do, and just come and camp. I don't
Right?
care.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
congratulations.
Thank
I'm glad
you.
you found your new home, and
Yay,
we're
thank
so
you. I'm
lucky to have you.
so excited. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for coming down.
Of course. Always good talking to you. Coming up, David Adam talks to Mr. Dan Sherman about his Lifetime Achievement Award.
A great night's sleep starts at Harvey's Furniture. Check out the large selection of complete bedroom sets. And when it comes to mattresses, we have a full selection from Bemco, Spring Air, and Chatham & Wells. Harvey's Furniture. Our home, your home. Welcome to the Abbey, a Quincy tradition.
With 6 big screens, a new larger kitchen, and now more seating capacity, the Abbey is the place to be before, during, and after the big game. Come enjoy fan favorite appetizers, steaks, burgers, and a variety of daily food and drink specials. Can't join us? Carryout is available too. Now with a convenient drive-up window to better serve you. 1736 Spring in Quincy. Opens at 3 p.m. Tuesday through Sunday.
Come join all your friends at the Abbey, a Quincy tradition.
And thanks for joining us this afternoon. My name is David Adam. I am the editor here at Muddy River News. And joining me today, it is a special treat. I have known this guy for a long time. I've spent many an hour at your home,
the house,
playing wiffle ball in the front yard or playing pool downstairs in the basement.
Absolutely.
But a great friend for a long time, Dan Sherman. It is awesome for you to be here with me.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Well, the reason that he's here is not because he had such a great place to play wiffle ball, where they had the big tree in the front yard that all the balls got eaten up. But instead, we're talking about the fact that you were just recently awarded the George Irwin Lifetime Achievement Award. You got the award at the Park Band concert here earlier this year. I know you knew George Irvin, and in the art world and the music world, that doesn't get much higher praise.
He was an icon. He really did so much for the community, involved in getting all the things done with all kinds of programs, etc. So he did a great job.
What was it like to? I know that there's. They had a big party for you when you retired. You've been given other awards, but to me, it's sort of like the George Irwin Award. At least in Quincy, that's kind of like, okay, that's reserved for the best of the best. What was it like when you found out you were going to get that honor?
Real nice. That week was I got 2 different awards, Monday and Wednesday. I got one from the Quincy Public Schools. So I'm saying I'm very humbled by it all. Very much so. And I told Pam, my wife, that's enough, okay? I'm really satisfied. It's beautiful. I'm very honored for all that.
So, okay, now a lot of people, you've been here for a long time. You started teaching music in Quincy in 1964, but not a lot of people knew that you were born and raised in Chicago.
Chicago.
How did you end up here, and why'd you stay here?
That's a good question, but I'll tell you what it is.
All right.
Got a scholarship. My dear friend went to Leo High School in Chicago, and my best friend, and Dr. Laverne Wagner came to Quincy, Leo High School, where we went to school in Chicago, and we performed for him. He offered both of us a scholarship to go to Quincy College. I never even heard of Quincy, to be honest with you.
Sure.
And of course, that was the best thing that ever happened to me,
right?
Because we both went there, and 4-year scholarship. Met my dear wife there. She came in as a freshman, And then right after that, I worked a year of my master's, but then I never really left Quincy because Pam was still going to school there. We were engaged. So I came back, and then the principal of the junior high came by, at school when I was in university, graduate school. And he invited me to come and see him in Quincy. I said, oh, sure. And they gave me a job. First part of the job was going to be teaching general music and civics. Can you imagine?
I can imagine you as a civics teacher.
And so I said, well, I took it.
Sure, of course.
It worked out beautifully because about a week before I was supposed to, Pam and I got married that summer, then we started working right away. A week before then, the gentleman who was doing the choral music at Quincy Junior High left.
Okay.
And then they gave me the job. And the rest is history. Because I taught 5 years there at the junior high in 1969. I went into started a choral program. Been there over 45 years of that, yeah.
So where does the love of music stem from? I can only imagine growing up in your home in Chicago.
Yes.
Because I was at your home as an adult with 3 boys there was always somebody banging on a piano or somebody was singing. I have to imagine that came from your home that you were up in Chicago.
Absolutely. My mother was a really talented piano player. And I started going to Leo High School. I played in the band there. And then, like I said, I got a scholarship to Quincy College back then. And it was my mother. She was an outstanding piano player.
Right.
And music was always part of our family. Always,
Right.
We would have times that we'd sit around the piano at home, and my wife, I should say my mother was so gregarious. She had people coming over, and
I cannot imagine your mom being gregarious.
And she was coming over there, and people come over and sing, and play the piano, and and of course then I started taking drum lessons when I was very young, and our family is very musical.
Oh yeah, one of the first things I could be wrong about this, but for all the work that you've done in the arts and in music here in Quincy, I think most people probably remember the work that you did with the high school musicals.
Yeah, right.
I think that's what they remember. It was the thing that was the last thing they possibly even did in an art standpoint before they left high school. The first one I read was My Fair Lady back in 1969.
That's right.
Did you have any idea what you were doing?
No.
I figured as much.
No, I was... But I had a vision though. I could see what was wrong or what was right.
Yeah.
And that it's up here, and I had a lot of support back then too, and of course I had wonderful young people to work with, and that would be something I would say to everybody. All the years, 40, 50 plus years, the music program at Quincy, I had some of the very best students.
Sure.
And they made me look good. I always say that.
Yeah.
And My Fair Lady was a challenge. Bill Uhr was the director back then, of the theater director, and he was a big help. The two of us came together, and my dear wife would come and watch rehearsals, and she would tell me this and that, But I always felt that I could see what's not looking good. My brother, who was really involved in theater in Chicago, he said to me, that was the key to me. He says, if it doesn't look good to you, it's not going to look good to anybody else. And that's what I went by, the whole process, And I had a lot of support too back then too.
Not only were you doing the musicals, but you were also teaching public school music, parochial school music.
Yeah.
You had the swing choir. You had the madrigal choir. Was there anything after you look back at your career where you go, I really wish I could have done this? Because there were so many things that you did. Did you miss out on anything?
I don't think so. I really don't. I mean, I had, like I said before, I had some wonderful, wonderful students, and working with them, and then especially when I started working at the high school, they were so supportive because the director before me was very popular, and but I had been. They all knew me because I taught them in junior high,
right?
In the movement, and it was terrific, and they were very supportive of that change. And of course, I had, like I said, a lot of those students at junior high,
right?
Teaching them, and it worked along pretty well, And I'll tell you what, one of my person would tell me if things don't look right or not would be my dear wife.
Yeah, oh yeah. I can't imagine Pam having any opinions for you on any of that stuff.
She's a wonderful musician herself and wonderful singer, and she would say, I really respected her opinion.
Sure.
And she says, it's looking good. that support system was really helpful.
Yeah.
And the support system of all the people, the teachers, especially junior high when I first started there, and then the high school, that was a wonderful move for me to go to the high school. And I felt real comfortable because I had most of those students at junior high. So, and then the program grew, and musicals, that first year was a little bit shaky, but that was a good musical. And like I said before, my brother would say, if it doesn't look good, it's not going to look good anymore.
Yeah.
It was very simple. But I had an idea what music should sound like.
Sure.
What it has to be good, theater part of it, and so it all worked out good. I'm very lucky.
The fact is you taught kids of all ages,
right,
for many, many years. Is there a right time for a child to start music? Is there ever a wrong time for a child to start music?
I don't think there's ever a wrong time. I think usually in instrumental music, they started pretty, they like to get them started like 4th and 5th grade, and they try to keep them work through the whole program. Vocal music, it's a little bit different, you have like a junior high. When I had that, I had a lot of kids interested in singing, and I built that program up pretty good.
Well, you had the 2 different choirs as well.
I had a whole bunch of choirs.
Yeah,
and I loved it, and they were good. They were really good, and of course, like I said before, they were ready to sing, and you take a different approach to the vocalization when they're younger, of course,
right,
and when they get to high school. So the transition for me going from junior high to high school was no problem at all, because I had all those students at junior high. And
did you ever have any students who would come up to you in the high school and say, I've never done any of this before. I didn't take instrumental music classes in the 4th grade. But I want to get involved.
Yeah, that's happened, not often. Usually a transition going from involved in early grade school and junior high. But if someone would come up to me, we have choirs, we had the top choir, and then we had other choirs. And if somebody really wanted to sing, I was welcome them.
Yeah.
That, I always thought that, sometimes young people don't have the voices when they're young, it hasn't developed yet. And I would take those kids in, and the group, not the best group, and I had one of my students, a sophomore, he couldn't even hardly do a pitch, couldn't sing hardly. But a senior year, he was a leader.
No kidding.
Yeah, it takes time sometimes.
Sure.
So you got to be patient with those students, and they eventually moved into the top program.
And you've had some people who have gone on to sing and perform.
Oh yeah.
At some unbelievable venues throughout the world. How many of them have you had a chance to actually go watch on Broadway or in Chicago?
Not really. I didn't get a lot of chance to do that.
Because you're probably here working.
Yeah, right. Didn't get a chance to do that much, but I always would follow them and know what they were doing. I would hear good things about them. Good.
I know. Okay, so I believe you when did you retire? 20?
I don't know.
You retired. Okay, let's just say you retired. All right, but that's only from the schools. You're still involved.
Oh yeah.
What do you do now to keep your fingers on in the musical scene, but not necessarily do it 40 hours a week, or I'm sure other times more than that?
I like to go over to the high school and talk to the staff. I talk to the secretaries. I love them. They're awesome. I have to be somewhat part of that somehow. And
it's too much of your part of your blood, isn't it?
Yeah, right. And I love to watch the rehearsals, and I like to go talk to like Paul Sheeler, choir director there now. I love to go up to him and say, "Hey, this is really looking good," and I just like to be part of it a little bit. Not like I used to be though.
Right.
These last couple of years, I'm slowing down a little bit. I'm not getting any younger.
That's okay. But the fact that you're still with the park band and that you're still there. I mean, you've been doing this since 1964, and yet you're still a part of the musical scene. It's just like a part of your soul, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I can't totally give it up. I'm getting older. I can't do as much as I like to do. Stay home, but but no, I like to take pride in how they're doing things, especially the program, the high school, and they're doing great. Of course, I would never miss any of the performances, like New Faces or Vespers and all that. And usually, a lot of times, I would go talk to the students and just say, "You're doing great." You just have to have that touch with the young people a little bit, and because I miss that. I miss that big time.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I had some of the most talented students. I can't name all the names. I can't keep track.
Oh, sure.
They've gone on to do amazing things in music. So it's fun to look back at that.
Dan Sherman, this has been fun. We did not get to talk about the Cubs, the Sox, the Bears, the Blackhawks.
Hey,
we could do an entire another segment on
the
that.
Sox beat Yankees yesterday.
Well, see, there you go. You got to have something to hang your hat on. Thank you. I appreciate it. And congratulations on the award. It's very nice. We're going to send it back to Hannibal to talk to Bob and Ashley and to Megan for the last segment of our Daily Muddy.
Thanks, David. Dan Sherman has always been one of my favorites, so this awesome achievement is definitely earned, and especially, The Office here has definitely been earned by Meg. What a great day! What some great stories, right?
Yes,
good
absolutely.
stuff all the way around. Even if there are a little bit of hiccups here and there with some local governments, right? But
yeah, it happens.
it's right, and it gives us something to report on. So
That's right.
There you go. All right. Well, I think that does it for today's Daily Muddy. Catch us here tomorrow for some Club Muddy.
Muddy River News. Our home, our news.